Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the Social Tea here. I'll be here talking about all things social, including celebrity news, reality shows, and what's going on in pop culture. In other words, I'll be spilling the tea and telling everybody's business. However, we know folks always give their feelings, so I must say all things stated here are alleged and are my opinion only. Now, before we get our teacups out, make sure you hit the notification bell, like, share, and subscribe. So, with that being said, relax, get comfortable, and let's get into it.
So back on to the SWV and Escape drama. This is the fifth show. So the episode starts off with Tamika calling her sister Latasha, basically because they need to mend their sistership. As you know, if you've been watching, they haven't talked since the whole $30,000 check ordeal. So they really haven't talked. So Tamika calls her. Um, Latasha answers and basically say that she can meet her up at the studio. So then Tamika shows up at the studio to see her sister Latasha. She walks in the studio and Rocky says hello to her. But I did also notice that he kind of looked her up and down. Did anybody notice that? How he just like it was weird. Like it was giving me like I checking you out type vibes. He kind of like looked her up and down. Mind you, remember Tamika did say that they had her sex tape, and I'm 1,000% sure that he watched it, but it was just nasty how he looked her up and down like. So Rocky tries to say hello to Tamika, and she completely ignores him. She looked him dead in his face and completely ignored him. Or did she look at him? Maybe she didn't look at him, but she ignores him because he said it loud enough for her to hear. So Latasha comes in, they sit down, and they both go over what went wrong with the situation. I don't know if they cut it out or cut this scene, but they didn't really go into much. They both apologized, but Tamika states numerous times that what happened is both of their faults. She keeps saying it, and it's almost like Latasha basically just glanced over or glassed over what she said. She didn't go into any depth or anything. So they hugged, and it was so sad. You can tell that Tamika really loves her sister. She almost literally collapsed in Latasha's arms. She really loved her sister, and I really think that Latasha took that for granted. Um, so we get done with that scene, and so then we get to the scene where um they're having auditions for their one night only show. Kandi misses this show due to other obligations. However, the other ladies from SWV, excuse me, the other ladies from Xscape show up, and all of SWV is there. Um, I like how each person in the group says whether they could dance or not. So supposedly in SWV, Taj is the stronger dancer, and they go into showing her dancing, and then Tamika says she's the strongest dancer in Xscape, and she basically says in one of their videos she was 8 months pregnant and she was doing better dance moves than everybody else. And then of course everybody knows that Kandi is the weakest dancer in Xscape. So then we get to SWV meeting up for lunch, and they talk about the upcoming show again, and they begin to talk about what song they should end the show with. And then they pan over the scene with Tamika and Taj, and they talk about the song because remember they were doing production stuff trying to get ready for the show. And they have the conversation with Tamika and Taj, and Tamika basically tells Taj that Escape has more social media following and they can get more people to concerts. And so basically, SWV starts to feel a type of way. Um, they feel a type of way from that conversation that Taj shares with them. So then we get to Tiny and her daughter Zanique. Um, Tiny shares the group issues that's going on with her daughter. Um, Tiny also talks about other things, but Zanique did say that SWV had more hits than Xscape, and they do, and I'm an SWV fan, and I'm not afraid to admit that I like both groups. Oh, so that was funny. I guess her daughter was trying to do that to get on her nerves. Then we get to Lelee. She takes her dog, or her grandpuppy, as she call it, to the groomers. Um, it's weird because I've never been to the groomers where you do the work. I thought the groomers were supposed to do the work. I mean, I just took my dog probably about a month ago, and yeah, I came back later. I'm not about to take the dog to the groomers and I have to do all the work. I might as well just stay home and do it. But anyway, Lelee goes into talking to her sister about the things they have going on with Xscape and how she thinks that Xscape dresses too sexy for their shows. They don't dress age appropriate, and she says that they look like Vanity Six or Apollonia Six or something like that. And then they show a picture of the old '80s group, Apollonia Six or Vanity Six or whatever, and I thought that was funny. So then next on to Coko and Kandi, excuse me. They are trying to finalize the set list for the show. And they have the guy Steven, which is the graphics guy. But I thought it was kind of shady that Coko was like, "Oh, he's a graphics guy. Is he supposed to be doing the music set list? Like he doesn't have um like he can't do more than one thing. You know, Kandi, she'll put anybody on. She'll give anybody a chance. So, I mean, it does make sense if he's the graphics guy, and your music is actually set to the graphics that's behind. Then it makes sense that he would be involved with that as well. I'm just saying. I thought she was being kind of shady. So they go on and on about what songs should be played, um, and those type of things. But I just thought that Coko was being kind of shady. And as a matter of fact, I don't see any of SWV people in this show doing anything. The only thing I've seen is their manager. I don't see any set people. I don't see any costume people. Um, so like they're being, kind of difficult. Not saying that you have to, you know, walk on eggshells and do everything that Xscape is saying, but they are offering a lot of their people to do a two-group show. So, that being said, let's move on. So then we get to Kandi and Tiny. We see them in the car. They're driving up to their wardrobe fitting with both groups, their group and SWV. And then they have their little conversations about the songs and the things that are going on within their group. And then we get to Taj, Coko, and Coco's sons Jay, and they're also driving, and they're meeting up with the groups. And Taj did ask um, Coco's son Jay, what did he decide to do? And he decided to go back to school because he didn't want to regret it later, which is good because I did say in a previous video that I do have a daughter in college. So I understand you don't want to ever regret not taking that leap of faith and finishing school. So everybody shows up for the wardrobe fittings, and it's not, I guess she would say, if y'all are like these famous celebs and y'all about to do this show, you would get kind of underwhelmed walking into this this place where this designer is doing their costumes, because it looks like everybody that works at the KOD, everybody that works at Magic City come here to get their stripper wardrobe. I mean, no shade to him. He does what he does, but a lot of these outfits are for strippers. So everybody shows up, of course. Lelee is a little bit late. Kandi acts, they get sized up. Everybody starts talking about what colors they want to wear. And then Kandi basically asks everyone where is everyone in regards to the show? Because we're looking at clothes and everything, but we really haven't made a decision on a lot of things, including the songs. So Taj brings up the conversation that she has with Tamika in regards to Week being the last song because Week has 3 million streams. It's the more popular song. It's the more stronger song to end the show with. Um, I will say yes. They do have a they I can agree with them. Weak is the better song. I like Understanding too. I'm an SWV fan. They're my fave, but I mean, Understanding is a good song. But where I have a problem is you can't have both. You can't open the show and end the show. You have to, okay, we're going to open, okay, we're going to end. You can't do both. It's not your show. Like, it's supposed to be a together thing. And then at the same time, y'all don't have any of y'all people involved in the show being formed. So it's like, what are you guys doing? So then they start talking about how many followers on social media each group has. And by the looks of it, it looks as if Xscape has more followers than SWV. Kandi has about 10 million. Tiny has about 7 million. I think Tamika Sky, she's getting close to the like 4 or 500,000. I think her sister's around the same ballpark. So they do have a more bigger social media following. And this was a big thing this week. Well, just because you have social media following don't mean that's going to equal into cash flow, or that's not going to turn into um, ticket sales, or that's not going to end in a lot of things. And so that was the thing with the groups. They were going back and forth. And I kind of say I have to digress on that because a lot of people make their living off of social media. There are a lot of content creators that make thousands and millions of dollars off of just social media. It depends on how you implement it. But I don't agree with that in the terms of their social media don't have any effect on ticket sales and shows. I will say that they did have a point where Tiny had a solo project and Kandi has had a solo project, and they said, well, their solo projects didn't sell anything. Some of their solo projects did sell. Tiny had a song that was number 3 on the charts, I believe. Kandi had a few songs that charted. They didn't have albums, but they had singles that did chart. So y'all have to give them credit. And of course, Tiny and Kandi have been on reality shows longer. I think this is coming on Kandi's 15th year on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So, I mean, yeah, they do have a kind of precedence in the social media streets, but I digress. So basically, Lelee from SWV, well, all of them, they started to feel disrespected in a sense. And I don't really feel that, and I'm a SWV fan. I don't really feel that SWV, or excuse me, I don't really feel that Xscape was trying to shade them or trying to make them feel bad. Um, they were really pretty much just stating facts. And these are things that businesses, when they want to come into a partnership with certain people and certain brands, they look at your reach. How many people can you reach? So I understood it very well what Xscape was, what they were talking about. But SWV, you could tell they were feeling disrespected in a sense. But I will say that SWV had the same argument when they went on tour with Salt and Pepper. They had the same argument. And didn't Salt and Pepper headline that show? And didn't they go on last? I'm just saying. I'm a SWV fan, but moving on. So then Tiny chimes in and she says, ain't nobody really saying anything different. I mean, they're all pretty much saying the same thing. In her confessional, she says that Xscape gives a production type of a show, whereas SWV does not. That is proven to be true. Even though SWV says they do about 50 shows a year, basically, I love them, but there are stark differences between the two groups. SWV does not have a production show. I even heard that they did a show at Busch Gardens. Now, like, look, you only do those type of shows when you're just starting out. Because I remember seeing Chris Brown at King's Dominion, and that's when he was starting out. So that says a lot. Um, and it's true. SWV, they don't have big production. They have the bigger hits, but they don't have a big production show. And maybe it's because they want to save money, or maybe it's because the group doesn't have the money like that. Maybe it's because the group doesn't sell as many tickets. There could be a lot of factors. But yes, Escape does give a production type of a show. They give you your money's worth. Because a lot of their songs are slow, you don't want to fall asleep. So it makes you excited to see their shows. You see the graphics in the background, you see the dancers. So you would think that SWV would put on a show like that, but they don't. So then Coko, I guess she gets frustrated and she said, well, y'all do y'all set and we'll do ours. And Latasha asked if they could just all get through with one show. Because remember, they were trying to do this one show to see if they could possibly go on tour with each other. So, child, we get to the last scene of this episode. So, Xscape calls a group meeting, and I think all the ladies arrive at T.I.'s recording studio. That's Tiny Husband T.I. I think it's his studio. I'm like 99.9% sure that's a studio. And it looks like Latasha's the last one to show up. So Kandi starts off by saying that Tamika wanted to get with the ladies for a while now and have a sit down about the promoter. So that's one thing that I did notice. I had to watch this about 2 times, maybe two times. I watched the episode, and Kandi did start off saying that Tamika wanted to get with the ladies to talk about the promoter. So then Tamika says there was a lot of things that's not right. Tamika says that Latasha's husband Rocky has been getting deals from the promoter. He has been dealing with the promoter and getting a kickback. So if you don't know what a kickback is, it's basically, I said this in my other video, that Kandi had kind of alluded to that they didn't like dealing with Rocky because of some shady stuff. So basically Rocky went behind the group back and basically got more money on the back end for a show. So say for instance, the promoter says, okay, I'm gonna give the group $200,000 for a certain amount of shows. Of course, all the women, they split the money equally. So what happens is Rocky goes behind the promoter back and says, well, Latasha's not going to show up. Or maybe the promoter may be like, I need 4 women for this show and I'll give the $200,000. Well, then Rocky maybe be like, well, Kandi's not going to show up and I can get her to show up. If I could do that, you can send me another $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. That's money that nobody else knows about. That's the money that's really supposed to be on the table for the group. But he's taking it behind their backs, basically, and is stealing. So, of course, Latasha, his wife, states that nobody is getting a kickback. So Tamika pulls out her blue folder of receipts. Everybody gets a copy of the text messages that has been going back and forth with Rocky and the promoter. In the text messages, it states that Latasha basically is involved and she knows about what's going on. Latasha looks, she doesn't even really look at it, but she just glances over and she asks, what is this? Girl, the jig is up, mama. The jig is up. This is the proof. And she's still asking if they all believe it. And the girls say, yes, it's right here. It's proof. Then Kandi explains that she shouldn't have to worry about this type of stuff within the group. And I agree with her. Whatever money or whatever deals that they close, everything should be on the table for everybody. And pretty much Kandi says the same thing. All money should be on the table. We shouldn't have to worry about somebody going behind our back and, trying to get some under table money. Especially Rocky. He may be Tasha's manager, but he doesn't manage the group. He shouldn't be any dealings with the group. If Tasha's doing her own side thing, that's different. But this is a group. So that is shady. So then Tasha asks everybody again if they believe the screenshots are true. And everybody pretty much like, yeah, we agree. And Tamika basically out loud confirms the number belongs to Rocky. That's his number. Tasha husband. That's his number. And then the show basically ends with Latasha calling Rocky. So then we have scenes from the upcoming and last episode that shows the group getting together for the one night only show. And it also shows the Scott sisters, Latasha and Tamika, going back and forth. And I'm sure the back and forth is because Latasha is pissed that Tamika basically co-signed on believing that Rocky was stealing money. Because mind you, if you didn't pay attention or listen, Kandi said the promoter called Tamika. He didn't call Kandi. He didn't call Tiny. He called Tamika. And what I think that is that's big, because the promoter knew that Rocky was her brother-in-law and her sister was being involved, because he could have called Kandi, but he called Tamika. Probably blamed like, yo, your brother-in-law and your sister, you need to check them because whatever they doing ain't right. So I'm pretty sure Latasha was pissed because she probably didn't hide it and she probably outed her in front of everybody. But remember, this is stealing. This is stealing from the group. And also remember that Tamika's sister, Latasha, and her husband also stole her royalty checks. That was about $30,000. Well, she said she's just saying $30,000, but it was more than $30,000. So they did that to her. So she know, like, yeah, I know they doing it. So I will say also that over the years of you hearing Kandi say a little stuff about Rocky and how she don't really fool with him or whatever, and little stuff about Latasha, I know that it's probably sad that all of this stuff has happened to Latasha, but I know somewhere in the inside of Kandi, she has to feel a little bit vindicated about a lot of stuff that's coming out, because she's been saying it and everybody has been blaming her for why the group broke up. Tasha blamed her for why her album didn't come out, blamed her for this, blamed her for that. So she feeling like, I've been telling y'all I ain't the problem. Then the brat kind of was on her side with the last week, the interview. So I'm pretty sure Kandi's feeling kind of vindicated. But that was episode 5. This week we have episode 6, and then the show is gonna be over. I really need them to do a season 2. Maybe they don't need to do it with SWV. I know SWV is my favorite, but I mean, they really need to do a season 2. Like, I'm pretty sure Latasha won't be on it, but like I said, they need to dangle something. It would be nice to see a season 2. But I digress. Make sure you let me know your comments. Let me know what you think. Make sure you hit the notification bell, like, share, and subscribe.